Happy day, everybody, and good morning. My name is Austin Shelton. I am the Guam Green Growth Steering Committee co-chair, along with Lieutenant Governor Joshua Tenorio, who is not able to join us for this morning's meeting. But I'd like to call this meeting to order for the December G3 Steering Committee meeting on December 15th at 10:06 a.m. Happy day and welcome, everybody. We will start off with my G3 Steering Committee co-chair update, and then we'll go into the G3 coordinator update with Lauren Swaddell. We will hear from our team leads from our different categories of action, and then we have some special presentations by Trina Leber of TNC and Kate Brown of the Global Island Partnership to tell us what happened at COP26, which was the big climate conference of parties over in Glasgow in the United Kingdom last month. So we have a great agenda today, and I'm looking forward to hearing all of these updates. So from the steering committee co-chair perspective, we have a few things going on with our G3 team here at the University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability. You may have been passing by the G3 Community Garden in Hagatna that is being implemented by our partners Guahan Sustainable Culture and AmeriCorps Guahan Sustainable Culture. So they continue to have lots of great activities in the community garden. Every weekday in the afternoon, the AmeriCorps members are there. They put the pop-up tents starting around 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and they're tending to the garden, and volunteers are always welcome. And then on Saturdays, at least once or twice a month, they have more community events like this. Last weekend, they welcomed a Nenny garden activity. So lots of kids were in there doing, planting their seedlings, doing scavenger hunts and other fun activities there. So we love to see that continue to thrive right in our capital village, which we said would be a beacon of hope for food security for our island and education as well. And so one thing that we are currently working on is a continued partnership with our friends over at the Serve Guam Commission. We are working with the next AmeriCorps group, VetCorps, over in Talafofo, and it is our goal to open another G3 community garden in time for Martin Luther King Day, which is a big day of service in AmeriCorps community. And so we hope to have that go on. I believe that's January 17th, if I'm not mistaken with the date. In other news, we have our G3 recycling bins and trash bins that Lauren will talk a little bit more about in her update, but those are coming to a village near you very soon. So we're excited to be contributing to our more circular economy here through that partnership with the Island Beautification Task Force, DPW, Mayor's Council of Guam, and Department of Parks and Recreation, and also iRecycle. And my last update for you this morning is that I'm very excited to announce that we will have our G3 Circular Economy Makerspace and Innovation Hub opening. Well, it's actually open right now by appointment, and you can talk to Miracle McGoal, our G3 Circular Economy Coordinator, funded by the NSF EPSCoR grant. So please contact her if you want to see it early, but we will have the official opening on January 13th. That's a Thursday at 3:30 in the afternoon here in the Chamorro Village. We'll have a little ceremony, and then we'll have tours and demonstrations across the 3 houses on site. And so that's where I'm standing today. It's a really exciting place where the community or entrepreneurs and artisans can come in and gather and use machines such as CNC routers, laser cutters, 3D printers, and take what are commonly thought of as trash, waste materials, and turn them into new marketable materials. So we're excited about how we will transform these waste products and contribute to an emerging green economy. And it's really important as we continue to talk about economic diversification on our island. This will be a really great beacon of all the things that we can do with our island's creativity. So if there are no questions, or are there any questions on any of these topics? Okay. If not, I'll pass it over to Lauren Swaddell, our G3 coordinator. Thank you.
Afade Toru Hamzu, Guahusi Lauren Swaddell, the G3 coordinator. So I just have a few updates. So regarding the G3 recycling and trash bins, they are still at the DPW warehouse as we are preparing them for distribution. So there was some slight paint damage that happened during transport. So we are touching those up right now. Meanwhile, we are getting the labels printed for the bins so everyone knows what goes where in the recycling bins, because we'll have a slot for aluminum cans, a slot for metal cans, and a slot for glass. And all of these will go priority to the mayor offices. There will be at least one at UOG. And we have a couple more that will go in other locations yet to be determined. So once those stickers are put on, we will coordinate with the mayors to have the delivery happen to those villages. The trash bins, those will go into the public parks and beaches, and we will coordinate with Department of Parks and Recreation as soon as they are ready to be distributed. My next update is on the G3 dashboard, which Rita Bernardo, our G3 Associate Coordinator, will give us a little demonstration on towards the end of this meeting in the presentation section. So the Thriving Natural Resources dashboard section has been expanded, and that's what the presentation will be on. It's looking great, and I can't wait for you all to see it. Rita is also currently working on the Educated, Capable, and Compassionate Island dashboard expansion, and that should be ready to go by the end of this year, by the end of this month. And we are working on we'll next work on the expansion for the Sustainable Alliances, as well as the Sustainable Homes, Utilities, and Transportation pages. So we'll be reaching out to the teams regarding the sorts of data that they find most appropriate to share on the page, and to make sure that we have the appropriate data sources. Related to that, we will be working with Hawaii Green Growth and the local 2030 Islands Network on developing a community of practice for data and dashboards. So Hawaii Green Growth has the Aloha Plus Challenge dashboard, and we have the G3 dashboard. And so far, we're the two organizations that have a dashboard. So we are going to be pretty instrumental in helping develop this community of practice. And what this will do, it will help other islands in the network be able to develop best management practices or best practices for managing their data, as well as getting a dashboard up and running for their green growth initiatives. So those are all my updates that I have prepared for you today. Are there any further questions? Okay, I am also, if you have any questions later on, feel free to ask. And now we can move on to the updates from the team leads.
Thanks, Lauren. Could you please facilitate the order of those as well? Thank you.
Certainly. So for Healthy and Prosperous Communities, I don't believe we have an update today because Lola is in another meeting with a grantor and Mel Mendiola couldn't make it today. But they will be looking at rescheduling their meeting, which was supposed to be this Friday. So that will be announced and rescheduled to their team. Next on the list is Educated, Capable, and Compassionate Island, and we do have Dr. Mary Okada.
Yeah, so we did meet with Lauren and the team, and I know that there have been follow-up conversations for receiving the data that's going to be loaded onto the dashboard. And so the criteria and what we've decided as part of those, what will appear on the dashboard was already discussed by the committee, and we should be ready to roll for the next presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. Yes, we're super excited about your dashboard page. Okay, next, Sustainable Homes, Utilities, and Transportation. We have Brent Weesey and Rebecca Respicio.
I guess I'll go ahead and report. if Brent's okay with that, but he can definitely add to that. What I know is that we will be updating all the Guam building codes to 2021 standards, and that is ongoing. And then just really quick, our Energy Smart Schools conference was virtual on November. At the actual date of the last meeting, it was really successful. We were able to get the various schools onto the conference, and we also invited like child development learning centers just because they are a facility. I know that's a part of both utilities and education, but I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Shelton. Thank you for the recording of your speech. It was very instrumental in getting the entire community to understand how the work that we do does tie into the G3 components for our island. And we're happy that the schools that did receive energy audits, because it was four private schools that received their energy audits, developed an energy management plan. And part of our conference component was to educate the other schools on how to develop an energy management plan for their facility. So we're really happy that GPA partnered with us and provided that detailed information. And we look forward to sharing information on how the various schools can subscribe to a learning lab that would help them to educate their students on energy conservation methods that they can carry on to the home. So that's going to be up next, which is be working with the different schools on their learning lab subscriptions and then getting them to develop an energy management plan, even though maybe they can't afford an actual energy audit. But we're hoping that 2022 would look different for us in terms of the financial, the infrastructure money that's coming in. We'd be able to assist the schools a lot more with regards to energy audits. Thanks, Lauren.
Oh, I just wanted to comment on that real quick. Rebecca, thank you for coordinating that really great conference with a lot of the teachers and the school administrators. Lauren in her update mentioned the community of practice that the Local 2030 Islands Network is putting together for the dashboards, but there's also going to be one on energy. And so there's a first meeting really early tomorrow morning, and I'll be able to attend that. And I think Lauren
Friday morning
too, and we'll Friday morning.
It's
Okay, and then we'll
Mhm.
Oh yeah, there's Kate. She knows all about it. We will report back to the steering committee next week and figure out how we can be very involved with that from Guam Green Growth. And also, just as an update from Carlotta Leon Guerrero, who is joining our Sustainable Alliances category of action. And she also serves as the governor's point of contact to Department of Interior on climate change. She's also having conversations on some of the energy funding and awards and things like that. So we're trying to keep that all pieced together to help our island transition to a renewable energy future, which our mandate states we need to get to 100% by 2045.
By 2045.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shelton. Lauren did abreast me of that meeting on Friday. Unfortunately, my entire office will be in the government ethics training as required by law. So, but we'll connect definitely after that. I'd really love to see what we can do to be a part of that and then help support you also. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for the update, Rebecca. And so now we'll move on to Thriving Natural Resources, and we have Fran Castro and Banshee Lujan.
Thank you so much. During this month, the Department of Agriculture, the Forestry and Soil Resources Division, they're getting ready for the fire season. I know it seems like we're still in rainy season, but they're in the preparation because although there's been a lot of rain and it has encouraged a lot of vegetation growth, when that dries out, we're more susceptible to fires. So they will have a contract. They're having a contract right now to develop fire breaks within the 3 watersheds of Manel Gayas, the Kaneni Plantation, Asgadao Plantation area, Katol as well. And depending how much funds are available, they will expand that to the Masa Reservoir area and to Seti Bay. Depends on what the contractor, what the bids that they're getting. They're hoping that they could develop these fire breaks for the next 6 months. We really have to get the word out because This year is a La Nina and the winds are expected to be very high. So that's going to be problematic for the fire situation on Guam. And so we'll need everybody's help in the community to get the word out about trying to reduce the fuel. So keeping the vegetation around their property low, that would really help. So in the next couple of months, they're trying to do a public outreach and connection with the community to reduce the vegetation around properties and also not to burn. Department of Agriculture has a forestry fire program, also purchased PPEs for GFD Southern Fire Stations. They also got a community wildfire engagement grant that will provide supplies and equipment to Asin, PD, Maina mayors for equipment and supplies to reduce the vegetation along Murray Road and the roads in that area, as well as high-risk areas. This weekend, Sea Grant will also be hosting a grow planting event in the Ugam area. They're looking for volunteers Saturday, December 18th at 8 a.m. So please get the word out. They're looking for people to help do some planting at Ugam. Also, Guam will be participating in the National Climate Change Assessment. They'll start the workshops in January with the general public and technical groups in February. This effort is led by Dr. Ramina King, and she will be the local author for this national assessment. The University of Guam College of Natural Resources will also be conducting ecosystem valuation, which is similar to the coral reef valuation, which provides a lot of data about our ecosystem, our natural resources, about the value of them. The information will also assist us in determining the impacts of natural resources to climate change. Dr. King and Dr. Ayers are the PIs on the project, but they hired Kyle, our young youth ambassador, to be part of the program and to do some research with them. So the work that Kyle will be doing is going to really influence some of the work that will be associated with the climate change resiliency plan for Guam. So we're looking forward to the information. To address endangered species, the Guam Habitat Conservation Plan will start their public outreach in January as well. And this plan will help us identify locations where endangered species are, but it will also be somewhat of a balance between to inform developers where endangered species are located, as well as providing a better structure as how to address endangered species when you're going to develop your property, as well as provide mitigation efforts and projects associated with improving the health of some of Guam's endangered species as well. So the most important thing is Saturday, December 18th, 8 a.m. at Ugam. Please volunteer and ask your family and friends to come and help plant. This will be the last for the planting season. So that's all for me. Fran, did you want to add anything else?
No, I think you got it covered. But if you wanted to volunteer for the planting event, please reach out to Sea Grant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Fran and Banji. So next we will move on to Sustainable Alliances. And for that, we have Trina Leberer. Go ahead, Trina.
Thanks, Lauren. We just have a short update. We didn't have our standing call because of Our Lady of Camelin holiday. So Austin shared, we are thrilled to have Carlotta Leon Guerrero join the working group. I think she'll be an incredible asset to the group. We're also following up with Gita on their existing MOU with University of Guam to see if we can get some research support so we can work on one of our deliverables, which was a study to look at the regional and international organizations that Guam can be a part of, or reasons why we can't. We have some legal support from Kristen Finney as well. And then finally, just since Kate is on the call, we'll be having a
Global Island Partnership call to coordinate on how all the members of Global Island Partnership will be engaging in Our Oceans Conference in February in Palau. And I know Governor Leangaro will be there as well with a delegation. So that's it from Sustainable Alliances.
Okay, thank you, Trina. Are there any questions to any of the steering committee chairs at this time? Okay, I actually wanted to make another update. I forgot to include this in my updates earlier. During our last steering committee meeting, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio asked if I could be a part of a initial planning meeting for a youth summit. So the Governor's Youth Advisory Council, the Guam Youth Congress, and the G3 Youth Ambassadors, as well as other youth organizations, are going to come together starting in the new year to develop a youth action framework. So that will be something that gets folded into the G3 action framework, because we have a youth contingent within our working group. However, they don't have their own youth framework. So we'll be working on developing that this upcoming year, and hopefully we will have some a framework of their own in the G3 action framework by next G3 biannual meeting in April. So I'll be working on that with them to help them develop it. That group will also be working on an SDG G3 tour through the high schools. So there will be more updates on that in our next steering committee meeting in January.
Thank you, Lauren. And before you introduce Rita's presentation, just wanted to check with Kyle if there's any public engagement updates that he'd like to give.
Thank you so much, good sir. Yes, the team will be meeting. Again, this is just another short update, but the team will be meeting, and we're going to lay out some plans for the upcoming year. Obviously, we have a new member of our science communication team as it stands. She's on the call with us as well, Ms. Alana Chargaloff, who many of you will recognize as a member of the G3 Conservation Corps. Following her graduation, with all her years of experience in writing and storytelling and content production, we were lucky enough to make room for her on this end. So she's a part of the team moving forward as well. We've taken a look and offered suggestions on the app and the dashboard that Rita's working on, and you'll see that in just a bit. And we're putting the final touches on this month's CIS and G3 newsletter, which will be sent out later on this week. So if you haven't already signed up to receive the newsletter, please feel free to do so. Just get to guamgreengrowth.org, and there's a link on there for you to sign up, and that'll go straight to your inbox. Like I said, we're looking forward to the meeting to prepare for the next year as well. Tons of plans for expansion and to get things out there in different ways. Thank you.
Kyle, do we have any of the plastic bag outreach confirmed for the next ones yet?
Yes, sir. So our final plastic bag ban outreach will be for the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow, we are actually going to be down in the South. So we'll have that opportunity to be in one of the stores down there. And then I'll get the full listing for the rest of the week out to everybody via email. I'll respond to the invite and just send out. Next week, we're going to have 3 actual locations instead of the normal 2. So I'll get that out to you.
Thank you. And everything, of course, up on the Guam Green Growth social media pages.
Yes, sir.
Where we announce those every week. Thank you. Back to you, Lauren.
Okay, thank you, Kyle, and thank you, Austin. And now we will have our presentations. So the first presentation today will be from Rita Bernardo, the G3 Associate Coordinator on the Thriving Natural Resources G3 Dashboard Expansion.
Thanks, Lauren. Half a day, everyone. So I will just share my screen so that you guys can follow along with this presentation. So can everyone see my screen? The dashboard? Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right, so we updated the Thriving Natural Resource web pages so that it expands to be able to dive deeper into our data, tracking our progress in thriving natural resources. And so this currently that you are looking at is the category of action webpage for thriving natural resources, which for the sake of this presentation, I'll call it TNR. So with that, here you can see a summary, which not much has been updated on this webpage, other than the fact that we did include 2 new primary indicators. So that is the burned areas. So this is the total land area that has been affected by fires, as well as outreach that's been conducted by the Department of Agriculture. So this is all relevant to conservation. And so those are the 2 new primary indicators that we're tracking at a high level in our overall goals for TNR. And so with that, I do also want to highlight an update that we have moving forward is here we have the focus areas for the 4 subcategories for TNR. And this has been updated. You may have noticed that I'll just kind of show you an example, like here in Educated, Capable, and Compassionate Island, which we will update. I just want to show you how that has been updated. So this is where you're able to navigate to those focus area web pages. So this is something that we will be updating moving forward so that this is a better way to navigate to those web pages, because currently this is the only way that you are able to go to these web pages to be able to explore those. Currently, they're not up here at the navigation bar, but that's something we'll be working on in the near future so that there's an improvement in the way the user navigates the dashboard. And of course, on this web page is our related sustainable development goals in this category of action. So with that, I'm just going to kind of just give you a lay of the land for the focus areas. I won't go into too much depth into them. I just want to kind of highlight the data that's been added. And with that, I do encourage you all to take some time to explore our focus areas for this category of action. All right, so life on land, let me just scroll up. So here you'll be able to look at just our progress in watershed restoration and forest conservation. So there's a lot of information around our terrestrial areas, forest areas, as well as land that's been degraded over time. So this has all been collected from our point of contact from the Department of Agriculture. And as Ms. Vanji has mentioned, fire season's coming up. So we also have fires in this focus area as well that you could kind of see as well how that has been affecting our land here on Guam, and more information as well of the number of fires and even wildfire investigations that are being conducted or have been conducted in the last year. And we've also included the interactive map that the Department of Agriculture has created. So this is something that you can, play around with to see to visually see on our island, like where are the fires occurring and, how, like what the impact is as well. And another thing we've included here is fresh water. So we're currently still in the process of getting data on our watersheds and our Northern Guam Lands aquifer. But here we have just a PDF to understand our freshwater resources, and as well as maps that you can visually see where exactly these freshwater resources are located on our island. And here is just an image, but here on this southern part of the island, it's an interactive map. We're currently looking to update this to have a more static image like the Northern Guam Lens aquifer. But this one, what's really cool is you can see, the waterfalls, the streams, the rivers. So this is something that we also would like to start incorporating as we get more of those resources across our government agencies, which is more interactive resources so that it brings more uniqueness and interactivity into our dashboard. And then as well as our conservation outreach, you're able to see the trend. And one thing to highlight is that the Department of Agriculture has been able to increase their conservation outreach due to staff capacity. has increased as well. And they've also transitioned to doing more virtual events due to the pandemic. We also did the TOCA app, just to highlight that, in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture. So that's something that's also helping with their conservation outreach in reporting any environmental violations. And then finally, a data point that we added here was our G3 Conservation Core. It is part of our Thriving Natural Resources goals, and it's kind of like embedded in this category, so or subcategory, I should say. And so this is just a highlight to see more of the impact of the G3 Conservation Core. I do recommend checking out our G3 implementation projects page, which I'll also just briefly show so that you could see the different projects that the G3 Conservation Core has worked on and their impact. So we have some language there about the projects that they worked on or the impact that they had. And then finally, we have the resources so that the user can go ahead and dive more into the resources on forestry, freshwater, as well as seeing more interactive maps that the Bureau of Statistics and Plans and NOAA have been producing. And then finally, this is a new feature that we added, again, just because we recognize that we need to improve our navigation on the dashboard. You're now able to navigate to more of those focus areas, web pages, to ones that are relevant to thriving natural resources. So with that, I'll just show you, it's basically the same layout for life below water, which is the second subcategory for thriving natural resources. So we highlighted the marine areas that are under management. We also have a map of those, I believe it's 5 territorial and 5 federal marine protected areas. And you're able to even read the assessment that was prepared by NOAA on the coral reef habitat assessment for US marine protected areas. And we also highlighted the resource to be able to see what is the community's connection between our coral reefs. We've also included sustainable fishing and how we are, working to ensure that we're compliant to the Coastal Zone Management Act. And again, the fact that we have the TOCA app as a resource for the community to be able to report any illegal fishing or marine abuse relevant to fishing. And the last few things that we've added here is the sustainable tourism initiatives that the Guam Visitors Bureau is doing. One of them is the ensuring that we have accredited marine tour operators to ensure that they're, conducting tours that's compliant to our conservation regulations and ensuring that we protect our coral reefs. And we also will expand more on the data on this, on other initiatives that they're working on as data is being collected. And finally, we did highlight one of our G3 implementation projects, which is the Sea Grant Aquaculture and Aquaponics. We do have 6 locations that are identified in our community to install those aquaculture systems, and I believe those are in progress at this time. So we'll have data included as those projects progress. And similar to the same format as the previous web page, again, you'll see more resources and you'll be able to navigate to those other thriving natural resource focus areas. So the third thriving natural resource focus area is climate action. We're still gathering more data on this, just as Ms. Vanji mentioned, more work is being done to talk about our climate change resiliency strategy. So I did include here more information on the executive order in 2019 to establish the Climate Change Resiliency Commission, as well as talking about our community engagement initiatives that are currently out there dealing with the natural resources, as well as our G3 youth ambassadors. So if you do have additional organizations that aren't being recognized here, please let me or Lauren know, and I'm happy to include that. But this is just information that we were able to get from the Coral Reef Initiative webpage. And again, we have more resources and a navigation feature here for those other focus areas. And finally, for this category of action, we do have the final subcategory, which is cross-cutting topics and issues. We may be considering changing the name just because this specific subcategory is looking at developing a centralized repository to include any revisions to policies about our natural resources, so like endangered species, invasive species, as well as our progress in securing funding for all of our sustainable projects and any publications on technical reports and gray literature. So you'll be able to browse just what I was able to gather from the information that's publicly available, and of course working with the TNR working group or TNR team to ensure that we have all this information here as well. So at this time, I do want to highlight that we are trying to make sure that since the centralized repository is still in progress to being developed, at this time, this is a great resource to use to navigate to like WERI, to the University of Guam Marine Laboratory. So all of those organizations that are producing these gray literature and technical reports. And that's all for the TNR. I do just want to highlight that G3 implementation projects page that we have updated to have the G3 conservation core impact. So here you could see our impact in our island beautification projects, reforestation, food security, invasive species, and sustainable energy. So when you have time, please check it out, because I know the G3 Conservation Corps just ended last month, but this is really indicative of all the great work that they've done in 5 months. And we'll be looking to, again, include more data as the next cohort starts. And just to highlight our current campaign that we're also working on, which is the Bring Your Own Bag campaign. That's still ongoing until the end of this year. So I believe this needs to be updated, but we have about 18 locations we've already conducted outreach, and definitely more reusable bags that we've distributed for free to the community. But you can see which stores we've already done outreach. So we do encourage you to just check out the whole dashboard once in a while and let us know if you have any feedback. And that's pretty much it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Amazing work, Rita. This looks incredible.
Yes, agreed. Amazing work, Rita. The dashboard keeps looking better and better every month. Thank you so much for all of these updates. And please, steering committee, if you see anything, reach out to Rita and Lauren, and we'll keep on improving this dashboard, which is our public and transparent method of showing how we are taking local action and contributing to global impact and sustainability. So it's really a great way for Guam to lead in island sustainability. So next up we have, sorry, was that Benji?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for the
Oh, yeah,
great
please.
work. It looks fantastic.
Thank you very much, Vanji. If there are no other questions or comments, we will now go into our next presentation on the agenda today with Trina Leber of the Nature Conservancy and Kate Brown of the Global Island Partnership to give our steering committee an update on what happened at COP26 and what are the relevant things to islands that we should be particularly paying attention to. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin. I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Kate. In general, the COP was a bit disappointing in that it was, it does not look like with current commitments, we're going to meet the global target of 1.5 degrees Celsius, which would help mitigate some of the bigger impacts from climate change. But that being said, there are some good signs that we're trying to move in the right direction, and that there is a commitment to go a bit bigger. Currently, the current nationally determined contributions kind of only added up to roughly 2.4 degrees Celsius, holding it to 2.4 degrees. So there is this sense that many of the countries and the big multinational entities kind of are committing to go bigger, especially on reducing methane emissions and stopping deforestation. So that was some cause for hope. And then there is a real recognition that we can't wait to continue to revise commitments and up the ante. So rather than waiting until 2025, there is a commitment of governments to come up with stronger NDCs or nationally determined contributions by next year's COP27 in Egypt. There is also a recognition that we haven't hit the wealthier nations have not hit the target of a collective $100 billion per year goal in climate financing, but it does look like they are going to meet those targets in 2022 all the way through 2025, and there is a recognition of needing more money. So there is an additional $8 billion in annual funding planned for forests and other nature-based solutions, which is great. And for the first time, there is a mention that of loss and damage needing to be looked at in terms of reparations. So that's a good sign. And this is the first time, the Glasgow Pact is the first time the world has formally agreed that we do have to tackle fossil fuel subsidies, that's really a challenge to any of our efforts to reduce emissions. And so it does call for countries to phase out inefficient fossil fuel subsidies and phase down the use of unabated coal. That sadly was a weakening of the language. Originally, there was going to be a language of phasing out coal, but India and some of the other coal producers did get that softened. So that's kind of a blow to islands, but at least there is this recognition that fossil fuel subsidies are quite damaging. And then finally, there is this finally a formalization of the Paris rulebook, which is great news because it was a challenging set of negotiations to really get the countries to be more transparent about their emission reductions and not just saying they're going to do something, but actually proving that they have reduced emissions and that they're doing carbon offsets to get to their goals, their NDCs. So those are some of the kind of the overall highlights. And then Kate had some good news to share from kind of the outside in the margins of the meeting. So over to you, Kate.
Thanks. I'm going to share my screen. Mostly because it's good. Okay. So I think the COP takes part in kind of two main pieces. And I think what Trina has been talking to is the main negotiations part of the COP, where all the parties come together and negotiate outcomes. But the COP is designed to have a part that's called the action agenda, which is all the partnerships, initiatives, projects, and other things that are generated from people trying to take action on climate. And so, in fact, the action agenda has a bigger amount of people coming to it than the COP, the negotiation side, because that's quite a narrow space. But I think there's a lot more of a platform for all countries, and no matter what their political status, as well as the private sector, NGOs, everyone to kind of come together. So one of the things that we did in Local 2030 Islands Network, which Guam is obviously both on the steering committee of and also a founding member, is there was an announcement, the big US, so the US had a pavilion at the COP, and they had one really big island event, and it was this one where this was announced that, well, firstly, that President Obama was an island kid, which is always good to have ourselves reminded. But I think what's really important for Guam is that he referenced Guam along with Hawaii and Puerto Rico on this idea that US islands have things to share with the world, particularly in terms of pursuing sustainable development. I think that that's a really significant thing. This is not something that people don't talk lightly at things like the COP, and that and this last bit at the bottom, that this is what offers a model of what's needed around the world. He was the special guest, secret guest that turned up at that event, but it was actually a event hosted by Monica Medina, the Assistant Secretary of State, and also Dr. Spinrad, the head of NOAA. And it had the Prime Minister of Fiji, a high-level person from Grenada, and Kathy Gentnell-Kitchener from Marshall Islands, representing her NGO, not representing Marshall Islands. So there's a kind of diversity, but I think really significant announcement, not that President Obama is an island kid, but actually that $9 million of support from the United States to the network. And that's really focused on, as I said, working with US islands, including Guam, and US agencies like the State Department, USAID, Department of Energy, NOAA, and many others. And then at the same time, the other big thing that was launched that is relevant to Guam out of the COP is this Clean Energy and Community Resilience Community of Practice, which Austin talked about before, which is kicking off on 2 days, in 2 days. And then that will be supported by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. So very much the idea here with the US support is its support to both US islands and US government agencies, and technical support being filtered through, in some ways, US islands, but kind of being much more island relevant than it would be if it was just, for example, Department of Energy trying to do something in an island space. And then the other one, which is obviously relevant, was that the announcement of a data and dashboards thing, which Austin also talked about. And that is supported by Hawaii Local 2030 Hub in terms of technical support, ESRI, NOAA, and also Guam Green Growth Insights kind of filtering into that. And we see Guam having a really important role as kind of the first place outside of Hawaii that has actually gone through this process. And I think so it's why in some ways the US islands were a feature of these announcements that happened. There were a lot of announcements at COP. I actually had a very comprehensive table about this. A lot of stuff heading towards islands, a lot of stuff to developing islands in particular. But I think it's really significant that the US made this announcement as their main island announcement at the COP. And I think it's full steam ahead out of this. But I think Guam and the G3, you can really, I mean, you've really elevated the space that Guam is operating in globally. This is a significant announcement by the rock star president of the COP, even if he's not actually a president right now, and that you're a part of. So well done.
Thank you so much, Kate and Trina, for those updates. I think what I am, and I know many of us here on the steering committee are very proud that we can call Guam a founding member of the Local 2030 Islands Network. These are huge new announcements for this network. It's really taking off, and we got to be there from the very start. And we continue to show how Guam is this early leader in island sustainability. So thank you for taking the time to share that with us. And we look forward to everything to come in the future and continuing to work with you. And also the Global Island Partnership, Governor Leon Guerrero is now serving as one of the leaders in GLISPA. So it's really nice to be integrated into all of these organizations. Well, we have, we're doing really good on time. Now we can have any open discussion if there's any other topics that anybody's thought of or questions for Trina and Kate. If not, thank you so much, everybody, for taking the time to join us for the December Guam Green Growth Steering Committee meeting. We look forward to seeing you next month in January. For a few things, right? We're going to have the G3 Circular Economy Makerspace and Innovation Hub opening at Chamorro Village, January 13th at 3:30 p.m. Here in the Chamorro Village, there's going to be the G3 Community Garden opening in Talofofo together with the AmeriCorps. That one's January 17th. And then, Lauren, what's our next steering committee date? That's the third Wednesday, I believe, of every month.
Sorry, just trying to get to my browser.
Can I ask
The
if,
19th.
Go ahead, Benji.
can I ask, not, I mean, our groups are working and we're doing stuff, but in our section, sometimes it's hard for us to show progress because it seems like if we can have like a not every subcommittee report out that at the same time, maybe break it up so that way you actually have, like, I feel like I can't give you a full breadth of all the work that we're doing because I feel we have to keep within a certain amount of time. That maybe if we could do it every other month, if each group, you know, like if you could divide the working groups into 2 or something and we rotate so that way you can have more time, but also report out on 2 months worth of work.
So each category of action would have a more comprehensive report and kind of cycle it through that way during our
I
monthly
just really
meeting.
feel like we don't get to really see what each of the groups are doing. Maybe another way of one, sometimes I feel like maybe we don't really have enough to do and we're just struggling to find something to report out on. But then 2, also not having enough time to report out all the good stuff because we're trying to.
Okay, it's going to be, if you do that though, the other side of this is that it's going to be a lot more pressure to have a better report.
Oh, well, I think that's okay.
If you do every.
No, I'm just asking the other working groups how it is for them because.
I think, yeah, Vanji and I discussed this yesterday and we felt like conservation, like especially in terms of the Thriving Natural Resources group, it's harder to you know, give you more reports in progress because conservation is slow. You kind of have to wait for plants to grow or, you know, those kinds of things like, and it's hard to report every month, but quarterly report, I think also, if you were to consider, that would be best.
Dr. Okada, Rebecca, Trina, do you agree for your groups as well?
I'm open to whatever is gonna bring about the most, you know, the most information for the whole group.
I'm actually okay either way.
So I would like
I'm fine.
my vision that maybe we divide it. And so for this month, these are the people that are reporting. So that way you get more time on the work that you're doing, but not everybody's reporting out every month. So if you can consider it.
Okay. Thank you, Vanji. I will bring that to the Lieutenant Governor next time I can get a meeting with him. And I'm not sure if we'll have enough time to implement by the January meeting, but we can certainly change, you know, shake things up for the rest of 2022 and keep getting more efficient and improve our processes here for G3. Thank you for the suggestions.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Thank you very much again for your time. And so we'll adjourn this meeting at 10:59. Have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Be safe, everyone.
Happy
See you soon.
holidays.
Bye. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.